We fear that we'll be socially shunned if we fail, but this is to miss how profoundly reassuring and endearing failure tends to be to onlookers. Guys, hello. Welcome to the Growing Up podcast. I am so excited to be launching this. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. So perfect timing. I am planting my tree and I got so much clarity. So if any of you who are listening who know me, you will undoubtedly know that I've talked about launching this podcast for the last 2 years. I just had this kind of calling to do it, but not a lot of clarity, or at least not the kind of clarity that I could put into words to other people. And so Matthew McConaughey says this thing about your inner voice that comes to you at 2 a.m. or whatever in the middle of the night, and it's so clear to you that this is your truth. And then you go out into the world and it's not reflected anywhere. You don't see it advertised anywhere. And all the other messages you get from society can start to drown out that voice. And you might even tell someone about it. If you're me, you've told literally every person, including every retail employee and waitress that you've interacted with over the past 2 years. But yeah, that person, you might tell your mum, for example, and she'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then that kind of really doesn't help you follow this voice. And so this is me now following that voice and realizing, so that was kind of all I was going to say on this, and then releasing the conversations being like, I don't really know what this is about, but I just feel like I'm meant to do a podcast. But I have just had, yesterday, I had so much clarity on what this podcast is actually meant, what I actually am trying to do here. And so I have really, background on me is that I worked in investment banking, blah, 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 worked in finance, and became severely depressed, clinically depressed is the official descriptor. And yeah, that's been my journey the last 3.5 years of trying to put my life back together, trying to figure out who I am and what I'm doing here and all this stuff. And I realized the thing that's helped me so much through my journey, like one of the things that has helped me, is hearing other people tell their stories of being a human, because being a human is really hard, whether you have whether you have depression or anxiety, or whether you just, lost someone who you love, or went through a breakup, or lost your job, or had a child who's sick, or, so many things happen in this life to all of us that are very painful, and we have to figure out a way to get through them. And so I'm like, oh my God, that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, is to bring conversations of people who have experienced hardship, which is literally any person, right? And then they've got through it. And obviously they're still figuring everything out, because they're still a human and we all just have to keep figuring stuff out until we die. But they can share a story saying, hey, guys, I've been there too. I've been, went through X, Y, and Z. And then you guys can listen and be like, oh my God, I feel way less alone. Like someone else went through, the worst heartbreak and felt like they would literally never love another human again and couldn't even face getting out of bed or whatever it is. And now they are happily, whatever, X, Y, and Z. So that is, but yeah, literally applying to like any other possible thing. Like, from the mental stuff, like feeling like a failure, which is stuff that I've struggled with, to like real life stuff happening, like losing someone in your life and how you go on from that. Okay, hopefully what I'm saying is making sense. Just because I had this clarity, it doesn't mean I'm still necessarily great at verbalizing it. But a message that came through to me really strongly yesterday, while I was in Shavasana at yoga. I always seem to get these really good thoughts while I'm meditating. So if you want a reason to meditate, that might be one. Even though I don't think that's what the point of meditation is. Okay, anyway, the thought was like, my podcast is, I want the conversations to be what someone could have sent to my brother over 10 years ago before he took his own life, but to say, look, you are going through something really, really difficult. Here's a conversation of someone who has been there. They were really depressed. So his story is that he was studying medicine and became really depressed and ended up not finishing that degree, and then that fed into the idea that he was a failure. And anyone who's experienced depression, it's like you just have these thoughts that's like you are worthless, and there's no point going on, basically, because you believe you have nothing to you believe you're basically like a burden on the world, and that it's just this big sense of being a failure, and but it's just all your head is telling you that, right? So it's like for other people to hear, like, I will, at least this is what really helps me to be like, I have been there and I've struggled with this. And so first of all, you are not alone. You are not the only one, because that's the other thing that you feel when you're depressed, is that this is just you, like everyone else is happy and whatever, and you are really stuck. And also that you shouldn't like bother other people because you don't want to be burdened to them, etc., etc. Anyway, so it's like, if I record a conversation that is like could be sent to someone like my brother at that point where they're struggling, and it's like, hey, I'd like listen to this conversation, someone else who they were depressed for this many years and they dropped out of their medical degree or whatever degree, and they felt like they would never overcome this, and then they did slowly put their life back together, and now they are the heavyweight champion of the world. Like, that's if Tyson Fury comes on here. But so it was like, okay, I feel like I'm really not explaining this, but that was the thought. So I'm like, oh my God, that's what this podcast is meant to be. And this is probably so obvious to anyone who has heard me talk about this over the last 2 years that I've thought about, that I've talked nonstop about doing, because for some reason when people ask me, why are you doing this? And I just can't really explain it, but it's like, I'm just like, if you've been to the point when you're so depressed that you can't really see the point in continuing, like your life, you come out of that very differently. But I was like, why do I keep talking about depression to people? It's like freaks some people out. Anyway, and then it's like, oh my God, this is why, because this is the thing at the core of this podcast. If that makes sense. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but I think that's important to say as well, that it's like, this podcast is me and the guest being totally open and honest, and so that's why this is unedited and it's unscripted, and it's, the idea is whoever the guest is, they're coming in to just talk very truthfully about and very courageously about who they are. So I guess now what will make sense to tell you is that, so I want to, because I struggle with this perfectionist thing, as I'm sure so many of you will, that so many of you do as well, probably, I'm guessing, or if you figured out how to get over it, please let me know. But it's like this tendency to like want to destroy all your work before you ever publish, and then it's like, how do you ever improve at anything if you don't even give yourself permission to let it be rubbish? So part of me trying to let it be rubbish and then get better, key point. So part of this thing is, so part of me trying to work through that is to commit to publishing twice a week to begin with, and then this thing will just get rolling and it can only get better. So that's what I want to do. I want to tell you the conversations I already recorded. I didn't really know what I was doing, or I didn't have this clarity. So you might be kind of like, this conversation doesn't sound like what she said in the introduction. But so maybe I'll figure that out, or maybe they will still align. But going forward, my job, what I want to give to you is these really meaningful conversation. Well, it's just two humans. You're just listening to two humans being honest about themselves, and then hopefully that makes you guys feel good. So I need to go and find people who are willing to talk openly about their lives, which is not everyone, which is totally fine. This thing that I'm doing now is definitely not for everyone, nor should it be, because I think it's very weird just to talk openly to the world about the details of your life. But thankfully, there are people who are willing to do that. So my job is to convince them to come and talk to you guys. So wish me luck on that. But in the meantime, I do want to, I am going to stick to this thing of publishing. So what else? So maybe there will be times when I'm just talking about something. Let's see. I've got to figure it out as I go, and I hope you guys will give me permission to do that. Because I'm planting the tree today. I don't want it to be another 5 years, because nothing's ever perfect, and the tendency to just wait until you're ready means you'll never be ready. Start before you're ready. Where does that? That's the thing. So okay, so that's that. And then the other thing I want to say is that I really want, the point is to I'm doing this for you guys and not just for me, or I don't know. So the point is, I want your engagement with it. So if you have ideas, please tell me. But also, if you just have any feedback, I will really appreciate, because I just kind of have this hypothesis about what I'm trying to do here, which I think I've explained. I don't know whether I've explained it properly, but I'm doing my best, and I can just keep trying to explain it better as we go. But not to you guys, I'm going to have to convince people to come on. So I'm going to have to know how to explain it. Anyway, so if you guys have any kind of feedback at all, anything you want to share, please do so. I really want to be engaged as possible and delivering the best conversations for you. That's the whole point of doing this. So I am going to link, if you're not already on my newsletter, that's probably where I'll be, one of the main channels where I'll be saying what I'm doing on this podcast, as in announcing what the conversations are. You can always, of course, subscribe on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this. You can follow my social accounts and message me there. I am just figuring all this stuff out, so I have an Instagram, I'm figuring out Twitter. I also want to, figure out TikTok. So I'm very embarrassed. Like, I don't know why I find it cringe. But do you know what? I think I've got over that, because it's like, this is my mission, is to help people who are struggling with the similar stuff that I've struggled with, or just struggling with being a human, because being a human is sometimes really hard. And it's like, I can get over myself being awkward, making awkward TikTok videos. No, they're not dancing videos. That's what everyone says. Maybe they will have to be dancing videos if dancing is what helps people who are dealing with anxiety or whatever it is. But it's like, okay, that's the mission. Okay, I don't know what I am saying at this point, but my point is, please stay connected to me if this is the vibe of stuff that you're interested in. And I want to bring on people who you guys really want to hear from. I also want it to be really relatable, because everyone like goes through shit. That's literally what being a human is. That's how I always thought I would start this, by saying none of us, like every single person on this earth, 8 billion of us, has something in common. None of us asked to be here. We just appeared into consciousness, depending on your beliefs about reincarnation or whatever else. But generally, it's like, okay, we just end up here, and now we all have to navigate it. And there's not really a playbook for how you navigate it. So literally anyone. Okay, I'm just rambling at this point. So I'm just going to put in the links in the description, but bear with me as I figure this stuff out, because I am just figuring it out. This is not my background. I work in finance, so this is just going to be a process, but hopefully it's helpful for you guys as well. If you're wanting to do something weird in your life and you're like, look at Delia at 30 years old trying to learn how to make TikTok videos. Okay, I am going to wrap up. I was thinking, do I have something wise to tell you? That quote I said at the start was from this pack of cards that one of my beautiful friends gave me when I was in a tough spot. They're resilience cards from the School of Life. And another one of them says, we don't need any more rags to riches stories. What we need is riches to rags stories that show how adversity ends up ultimately being bearable, and that gives up others the courage to go on, or something like that. So hopefully that's kind of what I am providing here. I don't know. I'll just leave that for you guys to ponder. And that's it. See you guys back here for the first episode.